Q-Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q-Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q-Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q-Time, an Urban Passport member.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
YT Productions.
Yeah.
I love my HBCU, and boy, I love it, I love it, I love my HBCU, and man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one.
Yeah, man.
I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention. And compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 95 of Inside HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora. All things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from NAIA to NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our K-Sway's 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Yeah, I got my gear on, representing a little bit today.
I like that.
Courtesy of Mogul Threads.
That's dope.
Mogul Threads.
Yeah, people taking care of your boy these days. I'm excited about that a little bit, Mike. But I heard, Mike, that you got something big coming out there. 1876 Sports and Culture Podcast. So I want to give a little love. That's coming in January. So look out for Sports and Culture Podcast, a group of 6 Prairie View A&M University alumni putting that together, and it includes Mike Washington. You ought to see Charles Bishop's out there with the 1400 Club if he's putting up work.
Yeah.
They have just come across their 100th episode. So, Mike, y'all got a little work to do, man.
Yeah. Oh, my buddy over there, CB, has set the standard. So we got a big mountain to climb, but we're up to it, man.
Hey, more the merrier. The more the merrier. This will be good. HBCU Media, I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, brother.
With that, I'm going to give a shout out to everybody. Again, that's 1876 Sports and Culture. It's coming soon, January. We'll get a little more about that and give you an update as we get a little closer to that. And we'll actually bring them on the show, give them a little shine and give them some guest love in terms of that. And we'll see what they're about. And in doing that, since it's 100 episode, we're going to bring the team on for a 1400 Club too. See if we can give them some love. See if we can set them up, giving them an anniversary in terms of 100 episode. I think that's a nice clap right there.
Oh,
we'll shout out and make sure that we'll put that together in the next couple of weeks.
Appreciate it, Doc.
Today's episode of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sports and educational consulting and data analytics. Today's show will be another good one. We'll be discussing the latest of HBCU sports, and we got a big-time guest today. Later, we'll talk about the sports history and just continue to bring you updates and things like that. But we're going to go inside the presidential suite, if you would. Other than Jackson State University, better known as D.I. Love, as they say around those parts, President Thomas Hudson will be a guest on our show. So we're excited about that. And then on the backside of that, we'll get a chance to go bring back to the show the executive director, John Grant, of the Celebration Bowl and the MEAC SWAC MEAC Challenge, depending on which ones you're talking to right now. But, we'll give him the talk about they're doing a re-air of the Celebration Bowl last year's 2019. So those Alcorn fans out there, I'm sorry to hear that you have to revisit that. But come on to the virtual party. They're going to do that so you can still talk a little noise. But that should be exciting. With that, let me give some shout-outs to Chad Cooper, Lawrence D. White, Kay Johnson is always in the house. Let's go. Chuck Hunt checking in from Monroe, Louisiana. He says Deion Sanders has his coaching staff. That is right. We'll see if we can get Charles to give us some insight of what he thinks about that and how that's going. Lawrence D. White says he's on board in Big D, Go PVU, Panthers, and Pantherettes. He's getting that old school name, Pantherettes.
Pantherettes, man.
Chuck Hunt, Greg Gordon, Robin Gordon getting in here. Just giving some love in there to different folks. Roberts Lewis, Jalen Riley. Kay Johnson say HBCU Sports Lab add another day of broadcasting. Tuesday is just not enough. We love Inside the Sports Labs. Great suggestion. We're working on that. Might be a little surprise in the near future. We might double up. And so hopefully that'll be enough to give you some insight, especially now we're starting to get back. Think about it in terms of conference play, giving us a little more space, the room to talk about what was the week before and what is in the week upcoming. So we'll see about how we're going to integrate that in, but that is in short order. We just got to schedule it and make sure we do the marketing right of how we want to time that. And so we're talking to our big time producer, Roy, back there of what that looks like and how that schedule may work. So Wendy Jenkins Bishop is always giving us much love. Thank you for all the work that she's doing out there. Trudy Jackson, Willie, Alex Hine. Good evening, everyone. Here, my weekly HBCU sports lecture from Richmond, Virginia, CIAA country. Yes, indeed. Don Johnson jumping on there and checking us out. So that's a couple of people. Quentin Henry, Lonnie Shaw, A&T, my HBCU. Yes, sir. I know that's right. A.D. Drew. We're going to see if we can get into putting up some of his information. He got some polls out there, men's and women's.
Got a poll out, yeah.
Yes,
NAIA Division II hadn't played any games, so he dropped it in all three sectors, but that hasn't brought out there. We'll see if we can sneak in there. Maybe we can debate a little bit and see what we think about his top five, to see if his computer rankings know what they're doing. Because, I don't start mine until the conference play or right before it. But it's always good to get that information out. We need that little talk. Don't hurt anyone, right? Jarvis Austin jumping in here. Kim Washington is showing us some love. What's up, my sister? Boo Harris Jr. Willie Alex Hines says Morgan State on the road defeating Iona 83-72 today. That's a big win. That's an earlier game.
Win. Nice win. Out of
Yes, indeed.
A couple wins. They getting out there. They had a big win with Norfolk State over Hampton. We'll talk about that a little bit later part of the show. But we'll see what's going on there. Lawrence D. White is happy. He said PV is ranked in the BCSN poll. So we'll tell you where they're ranked if you hadn't already seen. But yes, he's putting out there a little spoiler there, but we'll get in that detail. With that said, I'm going to go to Charles because he got the game in the background. So I want to see what you have planned for us today. You know, you always give us some love.
No doubt. I got in the background. I got Longwood and North Carolina A&T. They're playing right now. Right now, Longwood's up 49-36. But you know, as we get into the news of the week, let's start out with in the SWAC. It's Texas Southern's Nia Mitchell. She was named SWAC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. Nia Mitchell, she opened the season with a double-double, 21 points, 12 rebounds, along with 3 steals and a block and a partridge and a pear tree as TSU won its season opener against UT Rio Grande. So 85-64. So heading into the season, Nia Mitchell, she was also tabbed a 2020-2021 preseason All-SWAC first team selection at forward. So kudos to Nia Mitchell. She picks up right back where she left off from last season as being one of the more dominant players in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
No doubt about it. She's coming back to her old ways, getting it done, man. Double machine. Boy, I'll tell you, on the women's side, to see that stature and getting it done, just so athletic, sharp, smart about the game, hustles, plays so hard. She is dynamic in so many different ways. So it's really interesting to see all that going on. So fascinating. Let's go to Mike Washington. Mike Washington, what news of the day do you have for us?
Well, thank you. I want to go back and capture something a little bit. We were talking about Prairie View. Prairie View A&M, in conjunction with PVAMU Athletics, is excited to announce a 2-year partnership with Mustang Cat Sand Hill Farm Golf Club. As a result, the Sand Hill Farm Golf Club will serve as the official partner and home of the Panther men's and women's golf programs. You'll recall that the men's golf program this time last year was the SWAC championship, won the SWAC championship. So good partnership. This is a major move for Prairie View A&M's men's and women's golf programs and our athletic departments as a whole, according to athletic director Dr. Donald Reed. It gives the program a tangible home that can be a difference maker, not only in terms of practice facilities, but in terms of recruiting, and even more, give them an upper level on future success. So congratulations to the Prairie View, the Prairie View A&M. Let me rewind it. The Prairie View A&M University men's and women's golf teams on your new home and your new deal and your new partnership.
That's dope. Love it.
With that, we're going to update the show just a little bit. Usually we bring our guests in a little bit into the show, but you know, when you got a special guest such as the president, you know, they can take a little more accolades. So we're going to bring in President, Jackson State University President, Thomas Hudson, bring him into the lab, get a chance to really talk to him a little bit as he has a busy schedule, so we won't have long. So this update gives us a chance maybe to dig a little further, deeper into it. With that, I just want to say welcome to the lab. Excited to see, read a little bit about your details and things of that nature, and it sounds like you're doing a wonderful job. And although Jackson State is not my alma mater, on the research side, I've worked a lot of the research you're doing, and there's a little bit of envy in there. So y'all doing some great work. So kudos to what's going on. With that, you're a special guest, so I'm going to let Charles Bishop jump in here and bring you in the right way and start this interview off.
Well, sure thing. He's been a member of the Jackson State staff since 2012, serving as a chief operating officer, chief diversity officer, chief diversity and EEO officer, Title IX coordinator. And on November 19th, 2020, he was selected by the Board of Trustees of the State of Institution of Higher Learning after serving as special assistant to the president and chief diversity officer to become president, 12th president of Jackson State University. Welcome in, Mr. Thomas Hudson. Welcome in, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that resume is deep there, y'all.
Yeah, that's a deep resume. Oh my
No
goodness.
doubt, no doubt. Well, President Hudson, we had on our podcast, Tiger Talk with 1400 Club, we had Deion Sanders on, and he talked about the trio of yourself, A.D. Robinson, all coming into Jackson State about the same time in terms of contractually coming into Jackson State roughly about the same time. And we talked about the chemistry and the camaraderie. Just talk a little bit about that sort of synergy that you have from the president to the AD to Coach Prime coming into Jackson State.
Well, first of all, and I'd like to thank you guys for having me on this afternoon. It's definitely an honor. Appreciate the time that you all are giving me. But just to kind of speak on that synergy, that's absolutely correct. Just kind of an instantaneous connection we've had. AD and Robinson and myself, when we met about 2 years ago, the connection was instant. I was probably the first person, I wasn't president at the time, but I was probably the first person he really talked to on staff here at JSU. And we connected instantly and just built up a trust that just carried over. And he was one of my biggest supporters when I took the acting position. And of course, then I've been named permanent. So you had that natural built-in trust and that relationship. And when he brought the concept of hiring Coach Prime here, again, a lot of presidents, a lot of HBCU presidents would not have taken that leap, but the trust factor was there. Had a chance to meet with Coach Prime, had a chance to really talk about his program and what he wanted to do. And with beyond the flash, beyond the fame, you just saw a real solid brother who wanted to come to Jackson State and really do great things for the students and for those kids. And so that synergy was natural, and it's natural because we're all in it for the same reason. We want to see JSU and all HBCUs enhanced, and we want those students, our students and our student athletes, to have a first-class experience that can rival any experience they get anywhere. So that synergy is just really based on all of us having a common goal and objective.
Sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
With that, President Hudson, for those that do not know about your background, I want to take you back a little bit. If you allow us, I know everybody gets in terms of what's going on and currently running the university now, but we want to really get a chance to know who President Hudson is in terms of your background and your upbringing. If you would, share a little bit about where you're from, why Jackson State University in terms of your alma mater, and then give us a little bit about your jump in terms of getting into president. Specifically, I want to know these kind of things, if you don't mind.
Well, sure. Well, first of all, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, as you looking at and get into that, oftentimes you go into an institution. Was it in your mindset at one point that you wanted to become president? And if not, at what point did you say, this is something I want to do, and it seemed to become a reality?
Well, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I grew up at Jackson State University. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. Right now where I'm sitting, I'm in the president's home, which is located probably less than a mile from where I was born, probably about 3 blocks actually from where I was born. And so, hey, look, after 43 years, I'm back home in West Jackson, right? So just grew up here, had a lifelong affiliation with Jackson State University, went to Jackson Public Schools. I think I might be the first JPS grad to have this office, which is truly an honor. Lifelong resident here in Jackson, Mississippi, and just a true honor to lead the institution and to lead your alma mater. Anytime you have a chance, all of you all understand, anytime you have a chance to serve your alma mater, it's something that you have to do. And this was just an amazing opportunity. I can't say it was planned throughout. Coming into higher ed, I'm an attorney by trade. Came into higher ed, employment is my background, as you know, got into diversity and inclusion, and really just kind of rose through the ranks. And when this opportunity was presented to me, took over at a time, it was kind of a tough time with the university, but was able to take over at that time. Then we were hit with COVID on top of everything else. But just really sunk my teeth into the role, had a lot of great support from our alumni, the faculty, the staff, and it just kind of naturally led to the position I'm in now. So I can't say this was always in the plan. It was in God's plan, and that's what ultimately matters. And I'm just very happy to lead at this time.
Sure. Amen. Thank you for sharing that with us, President Hudson. Mike, if you jump in here, please ask a follow-up question.
Yes, President Hudson. Again, thank you very much for joining us on the show. I, like Dr. Cavil, did not attend Jackson State, but I'm a longtime admirer of the university and the community. One of my good friends, CB, allows me to be on the show sometimes. He gives me plenty of Jackson State paraphernalia. So you have a tremendous background, but nothing could have prepared you for this pandemic that we're going through. So can you talk us through some of the significant challenges that you and your leadership team have had to tackle, not only in the recent months, but going forward with regard to COVID-19 and, what lies ahead, if you can share that with us?
Well, it's very interesting. One thing COVID-19 did, I was less than a month into my presidency when I had this, and I was talking with the president of Alabama A&M at the time during the SWAT call, and I talked about being the new guy in the group, and he said, well, you know what, we're all new when it comes to COVID-19. It was just such an equalizer in terms of all of us going through this in a shared way. But, just the challenges, the one way we attacked it is we wanted to follow the science from the beginning, and we put the safety of our students, our faculty and staff above everything else, which requires some very tough choices. We've canceled commencement twice now, which was very, very tough to do. In-person commencement. We're doing the virtual ceremony actually this Friday. So canceling events, not having football, basketball. Our team was actually on their way to the SWAC tournament. They were literally on the bus and they had to turn around once the SWAC tournament was canceled. So just a lot of sacrifice, but all in the name of safety. Thankfully, we've gotten through it. We feel we've gotten through the worst of it, even with this surge we have ongoing. Just a lot of planning, spending the dollars where it's needed, the CARES Act dollars where it's needed on PPE, testing, all of those things. And we're so much further along now than we were at the beginning. In fact, we have a surplus of a lot of the things that we need. We're looking forward to a much more robust semester, of course, in the spring. Of course, there will be football, Lord willing, this spring, more students on campus, and we're just looking forward to a great spring, but we're still going to maintain those safety protocols. We're still going to follow CDC guidelines, and we're going to operate as safely and as appropriately as possible as we go forward into the spring semester.
Yeah. Charles?
Yeah, sure thing. And I wanted to kind of follow up President Hudson on the robustness of Jackson State. Several grants, National Institute of Health, National Science Foundation, and now Coach Prime all coming on board. What kind of is the future pathway of Jackson State University?
Well, look, the future's unlimited. This has been started the year tough, like I said, but we're ending very strong. We're ending very strong, and we feel that we have a renewed sense of momentum going into the spring. Doesn't mean we don't have work to do, and there's areas to improve. There's a lot that we have to improve upon to truly make JSU what it should be. But there's a lot of momentum. You mentioned the grants between the CDC grant we got to help with the COVID-19 marketing and response within the state of Mississippi, affecting those communities of color in particular. Our NIH grant, we just got another grant, Department of Education, dealing with special education and just doing some studies and the impact there. There's a lot of activity going on in Jackson State. We've had probably over the last 4 to 5 years, we've had well over $150 million in research dollars flow through Jackson State University. And that's just a testament to the talented faculty, staff that we have on board. There's more to come. There's more to come. We have goals to even increase and go well beyond that. Just recently, we had a visit from the Department of Army, the Secretary of Army, Ryan McCarthy. Great on-campus visit. We hosted him and several other HBCUs. And it was about partnering with the Department of Army on more contracting opportunities, a space that's a multi-billion-dollar space that most HBCUs don't really play in. We're looking to become prime players in that federal contracting space as well. And we're doing a lot in terms of building our infrastructure in order to compete for those as well. The sky's the limit for JSU, but not just JSU. All HBCUs have to take advantage, seize the opportunity that we have now with an HBCU grad now in the White House, all the conversation surrounding HBCUs, their value and what we can do all of us collectively have to seize this moment and really propel ourselves forward. I do not want us to look back at this time 2 to 3 years from now and say, man, I remember when HBCUs were hot for a moment, right? I want us to look back and say that was the start and that was really the building block for the greatness that we're seeing now. And I think we can really do that collectively.
Sure thing.
I want to build on the points you make when you take it from Jackson State and into a larger macro level in regards to HBCUs, but I want to specifically look a little more in terms of SWAC. You also talked about your first month into this, you had a chance to talk with Alabama A&M president and during the SWAC meeting. So for sports context, talk a little bit about those meetings when the power brokers, the presidents, the leadership's team in regards to the Southwestern Athletic Conference come together and talk about the intricate issues and good things that are going on with the Southwest Athletic Conference. Talk about a little bit of how those meetings go. I mean, obviously you can't get into maybe define notes in terms of that, but generalities. How are those meetings taking place? What is discussed during those meetings and generally speaking, and what is your experience in those meetings?
Man, look, it's been a great experience. I must say it starts with Commissioner McClellan. Shout out to the JPS grad himself, Commissioner McClellan. It starts with him just showing great leadership with Commissioner McClellan, Jason Cavil, the associate commissioner. They really set a professional, detailed tone where every meeting has a detailed agenda. They come with their information and their facts, and it makes it so much easier for us as HBCU SWAC presidents. I also must send out a shout out to my own AD athletic director, Ashley Robinson, who chairs the AD's council within the SWAC. So he sits in those meetings as well. Anything related, AD related, he's Johnny on the spot and is just a true leader for that group. But in terms of the meetings themselves, you will be surprised. I know, look, I'm a big JSU football fan. I'm a JSU fan first and foremost. I ride for JSU. But just the camaraderie that you see in those meetings, just the coming together, the way we're all generally on the same page. Yes, sometimes we have common interests, but there are times when you will see institutions put aside their own interests and their own situations for the good of the entire conference. And in the end, we come through with unanimous decisions. From adding FAMU, the first decision really I made as one of the SWAC presidents, probably less than 2 weeks in my tenure, was when the decision came to add FAMU and Bethune-Cookman College to the SWAC. Big decisions, a lot of robust discussion. I must say Commissioner McClellan had his facts together, had everything the way it should be. Just a very exciting time. And man, you're going to see a much better SWAC, a much more robust SWAC going forward. And it's a lot to be excited about. We are the premier HBCU conference. We're the premier FCS conference. But I think in less than 5 years, you're going to see us become one of the premier non-Power 5 conferences in the nation. Just so much going for us, and the future is very bright.
Boy, you dropping a lot of them breadcrumbs. I like that.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Thank you. President Hudson dropping
and then he's really good. I can see you're natural at this. You dropped some key people in there, Dr. Charles McCullen, with the high school connection in Jackson, Mississippi. But he did go to Prairie View undergrad. We're gonna sneak that in there.
Gotta give him his props on that. Prairie View has it going on, I must admit.
You come back in there with the associate commissioner. He did his executive PhD from Jackson State University, one of those programs that I got my eyes on. We need to look at how we can do something like that at Texas Southern University. So like I said, I'm doing my homework. Y'all putting some tremendous things out there in a lot of different ways. So again, kudos to what's going on there. Let me go back to Mike and let you ask a follow-up question.
President Hudson, you started to elaborate on a question that I was going to ask, with the social movement in the United States, the movement within the SWAC. You mentioned it yourself, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman being added. The star of the SWAC has grown exponentially in the last year, and each school is gonna benefit from in some way, form, or fashion. You said it earlier that you'd hate to look back, 2 or 3 years and hate we didn't capitalize on it. What tangible steps or what's your vision for Jackson State in the next 3 years to capitalize off this moment?
Well, in terms of the vision, first of all, you have to put the infrastructure in place. I'm a big believer in having a solid foundation from which to build. Jackson State has a 143-year history. I'm the 12th president, and I'm very proud to serve as the 12th president. But my job is not to come in and break everything down and start over. My job is to build upon what has been laid before me and really just setting that infrastructure up for us to become the university that we should be. So really what you're going to see from me for at least the immediate future is doing those things that aren't as exciting. Everything we do is not as exciting as hiring Coach Prime, but just as impactful. When you decide, hey, I'm going to spend the money to improve the campus infrastructure so we don't have heating and cooling issues, for instance. That's not a new building, okay? That's not something people are going to rally around and break ground on, but guess what? It makes the campus life better. We're going to do some things. Everyone wants to talk about, hey, when is JSU going to get a new stadium? But we're going to do things to improve the quality of life for those kids where they are 6 days out of the week. Residence halls, doing some things with our dining hall, which is well overdue. The Sonic Boom of the South. We talk about them being the greatest band in the land, and they are, all due respect to present company, but we have to start treating those students like that. Start giving them that first class experience that they deserve. So what you're going to see in the coming year, and I try to work, in terms of planning, what you're going to see in the coming year is a real building up and enhancing of our infrastructure that supports the type of growth that we want to see. Frankly, other institutions, I mentioned Prairie View. Prairie View has had a lot of growth over the years. And Prairie View, in terms of having it going on, you guys have it going on. And part of that was someone went through and laid the groundwork for your current president, Dr. Simmons, who came in with great credentials to really build upon. We're going to do similar at Jackson State. My job is very simple, to leave this seat better than I found it. And that's really the job of any person who has a leadership responsibility such as this. So you're going to see some great things out of Jackson State. Again, not all of them are going to be exciting, but they're going to be things that's for the long-term health of the university.
Awesome.
Yes,
great nuggets. Except, Sonic Boom in the South, they're an okay band, but I've heard of the Marching Storm, and
you better recognize.
I'm just saying.
With that, President Hudson, I know your time is valuable, and we said we would get you off at 6:30. With that, I'll let Charles ask the final question in terms of anything that you want to say to your alumni out there, supporters, in regards to that. So Charles, take it away with that.
Yeah, one final question, President Hudson, and you touched on it in terms of being a native Jacksonian, a JPS graduate and Jackson State alum. Do you feel like you're in a unique position to have the pulse of the Jackson State fan base and the Jackson community?
I really do. And not to toot my own horn, but, I'm from here. Bred here. I'm in the community. I'm a part of the community. I definitely have my finger on Jackson State University and the surrounding area and really how we fit, within this great puzzle called Jackson, Mississippi, and how we are really a main driver for what's great about this city. And I'm well aware of Jackson State's place. I'm well aware of the power and what can really come through Jackson Public Schools. These are institutions, the city of Jackson, JPS, that have been much maligned over the years. But there is greatness in those institutions. And as Jackson State, we have to be a leader in enhancing those institutions and making them better. And I'm well aware of our responsibility to do that. I'm a product. I'm here because of those institutions. I'm here because I got a great education from Jackson Public Schools, from Whitfield and Apacon Park to Blackburn Junior High, now middle school, to Provine High School. Everything I am is a product of those things. In the city of Jackson, just having youth summer programs, various things that kept us off the streets and kept us engaged. All of those things helped make me who I am. Since I like to name drop a little bit, our athletic director, Ashley Robinson, same story. JPS grad, came through those very programs and institutions that I mentioned. We are all going to have to do our part to make sure that that's there for the next generation. So in terms of having our fingers on the pulse of that, I can tell you, being the first, beyond everything else, the thing I'm proudest of, being the first JPS grad to be the leader of an institution like Jackson State University. And I take that responsibility very serious. And we're going to do everything we can to enhance the school district and enhance the city and really give people something to work towards.
Certainly with that, President Thomas Hudson, appreciate you coming on to the show, President of Jackson State University. Know that you have open invitation to any of the wonderful things that you're doing at Jackson State University or the colleagues down there that you want to get out to all of the followers out there, particularly from HBCUs, Jackson State University. Please let us know. We'll make sure that we'll carve out space with that. But we don't want to hold you up from your other prior commitments. But we really want to say thank you for taking out the time to come and visit us. And as we say at the end of our interviews, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Thank you all very much. Before I jump, like I said, anytime, this was enjoyable. And I appreciate all you all do on behalf of HBCUs. And thank you for highlighting Jackson State in such a positive way. So thank you all so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
First, we had to vote on FAMU and then Bethune-Cookman. Man, I want to know how that went down. We're going to have to go off the record and talk about that.
Give me a call afterwards.
I know, look at that. The book's already written.
Yes, it did.
See you guys later.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
With that, we're going to take a quick break here. This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. You just heard the interview with Jackson State University President Thomas Hudson. With that, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right with you to talk more about the show.
I'm returning to Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
It was
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Let's get into some of this basketball talk, man. It's too much to miss out on. First, we're going to start out with a tough one. Yeah, North Carolina Central going to Coastal Carolina. Man, that was a solid game there by Central. They were playing really big into that. Tough loss in a lot of ways after a big push to take a 1-point lead with little over a minute left. The game didn't quite go that way. A couple of fouls, missed shots, missed layups for the Eagles there as Coastal Carolina went to the free throw and salted away to win that final game 78-71. But the one that I'm really interested in a lot of ways was that Norfolk State and Hampton rivalry, the ex-MEAC rivalry in a lot of ways, public-private institution, a lot of hype there, Big South, MEAC. You already had the Norfolk State getting a win over the Big South team and earlier in the season, but now they get a chance again against another Virginia foe. They're essentially 3-1 in the state of Virginia, and they get to add on that victory against Hampton. It was close up until about 5:42 in that game. Chris Shelton hit a three to pull the Pirates within 63-61. The Spartans go on a 13-2 run to close out the game to win 76-64. So the Spartans are really excited about that. I'm going to go to you, Charles, and we'll get a chance maybe to play a little bit of a clip of what took place in that matchup. And then you can go to HBCU Game Day to see the rest of that as you can go into detail to break down that game as Stephen Gaither and those individuals that had a chance to actually go into the game live. Obviously wasn't the atmosphere that you see in the regular part pre-COVID-19, but still was interesting in a lot of ways. See if we can get in that matchup. Let me know your thoughts in terms of what you think, Charles. Before we go to that, let's go to that clip, and when we come out of the clip, we'll get your thoughts in terms of that matchup, and then yours as well, Mike. Let's go to the clip. You can go to HBCU game day as they break down what took place in that, but just wanted to give you a little bit of live action there in some ways in terms of what's going on. But Charles, what were your thoughts of that game, the matchup, all things about that?
Nice win, Norfolk State. And when I say that, to not we're playing in unprecedented times, to not have a rivalry game like that, to have the crowd in there and kind of have to generate your own energy. And they found some juice toward the end to pull away from Hampton. But, we kind of, look at the MEAC as being North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T, especially with Cameron Langley at A&T. But I tell you what, Norfolk State, that's a early right cross the jump. So look for Norfolk State in the MEAC this upcoming season.
Yeah, Mike, as we jump in here and let you jump into that, you can give me your thoughts on that matchup, but also just update out there, you got Coppin State ahead of Georgetown by 3. A lot of time left in that game, but the fact that they're playing with them, this is also after they had their first game where they played close with Duke, 10-point loss there. Had a tough loss against another mid-major I thought they'd probably play a little better with, but it seems like they get up for big-time competition, which they did last year. They won a lot of non-conference games against what we call Power 5 institutions, but then when they got in the conference play, that didn't happen. So they were supposed to play Tennessee State, and Tennessee State was in a conference matchup tonight against Belmont, one of the teams that are picked to do well in that conference. So they weren't able to play a game before that. And so I would hate that the two HBCUs, MEAC and Tennessee State out of the OVC didn't play. But I want to either get your thoughts on Hampton, Norfolk State, or Coppin State in terms of what they're doing with Georgetown and preparing for Tennessee, preparing for Belmont.
Yeah, so, with Norfolk State, they are off to one terrific start at 3-1. You have, two of the top, I'd say 12 leading scorers for Norfolk State. Devontae Carter went off. He had a career high, 28, 29 points. He hit 11 of 13 from the field. That was a stellar game in a rivalry game. It's unfortunate you didn't have the normal ambiance in the environment, but it still, to me, didn't, lack in terms of the intensity of the game. So, and Darrell Anderson, 12 points. So I think this is an early indication, and, they really, they haven't really gotten into the meat of the schedule, but this is an early indication that how good this Norfolk State team just might be going down into the stretch in the heart of the MEAC conference. I'm trying to look at 6 seed teams based on how they performed last year. Who's going to match up to this Norfolk State squad? They look pretty good. I didn't get a chance to see the whole game, but because I saw bits and pieces, but they look pretty good, not only on paper statistically, but in person. They kind of meet that eye test as well.
No doubt about it. I want to jump into this and get into some of this poll talk since we got that going on. I'm going to go with Jimmy first. He likes to give us his top teams. He has a list of 9 of them. So I'm going to go with the top 5 for the symmetry. And we might talk about some of the teams outside of that top 5. Texas Southern is not in the top 5. He does not have North Carolina A&T in the top 5. He had Grambling outside of that top 5, and Morgan State are teams that he's looking at that are not in the top 5. So I want to get both of your thoughts on that. And then we're going to go to AD and break down because he does the computer ranking like myself. So I know y'all love those kind of things. So I want to be entertained a little bit. Before we do that, we're going to talk about Jimmy and see what your thoughts on that. So his top 5. And I'm going to let you jump in here, Mike, and then you, Charles. Because Charles seems like he's grinning on this. North Carolina Central 1 D1 win. They're 1-2 in terms of the time that this came out. PVAMU is 1 D1 win. They're 1-2 in terms of their record. Had a couple of games they had to cancel because of the COVID-19. You had Hampton, 1 D1 win. They're 1-1. along with the tough loss to Norfolk State, obviously. He has number 2, Alabama A&M, which may surprise some people. 1 D1 win, they're 1-0. And he has number 1, Norfolk State, that has 3 Division I wins, 3-1 out of the gate. Let's go to you, Mike, to see what are your thoughts on Jimmy and his top 5 programs on the men's side of HBCU.
I love Jimmy to death. I really do. Let me lead off with him. So first of all, you can't have Alabama and A&M at 1 because a lot of those other teams have already played 3 or 4 games. Alabama A&M's played 1, 2 games. They beat Sanford.
They won. He had 1 and all. He had him at number 2. But you're right. Yeah, they only played 1 game. They won a game. They only played 1.
Sanford won 3 in 1,000 in their league last year. So they won 3 in 1,000,000. So how good? I'm not taking anything away from them. You know, they did have some good quality wins. Or good, decent win after that. The team they beat, I think it was University of Greenville. If you look at their record, they've lost their last 3 contests by a combination of 60, 70 points. So you have to look at strength of confidence. I don't know if it's fair to put them up at number 2 with just 1 win. Granted, it is Sanford, a D1. I think they moved down. I think they're outside the 5. I don't know why you don't have a TSU.
So if A&M is outside the 5, before I go to Charles, tell me who you would replace them with.
Looking at it, I would keep Prairie View.
Texas Southern outside, North Carolina A&T outside of the 5.
I would put A&T and then maybe give TSU consideration.
All right. Go ahead, Charles. Let's see you looking. You got an update for us up there while you looking to see?
3:13 left in the game, and Longwood is up 72-57 over North Carolina A&T.
Oh man, they pounded it. Well, that's gonna hurt. Maybe your
thoughts. Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
Maybe there goes my thoughts.
Because that's the team. That's the team I'm pulling out of his top 5 is North Carolina A&T, and I bless Jimmy's heart, but I can't have a poll without Texas Southern in it. That's period and point blank. I mean, the reality of the fact is Texas Southern should be in the top 5. I applaud. That's good looking with Alabama A&M. In fact, I think they have the highest RPI rating right now in college basketball. But
based on that one.
They won 1 game, but but it is newsworthy. But I gotta have Texas Southern in your top, in anybody's top 5. If Texas Southern is not in your top 5, all right, I'm still browsing.
The only reason I didn't have Texas Southern in there is because their first two games are postponed. They do have 1 solid win. So again, you don't have a solid data point. I do think strength, they do have the team on paper and as far as meeting the eye test, but that was the only reason I hesitated in having them in the top 5. I'm in agreement with you, but I'd like to see them actually play, get some more data points before I say for sure. I'm pounding my fist saying TSU needs to be in the top 5.
I'm telling you right now, and I'm saying it early, Michael Weathers is going to be an issue in the SWAC when we get to conference play.
Oh, without question.
Second time already. He's been named SWAC Men's Basketball Player of the Week this past week. 23-point effort, 8 of 12 shooting, 33 minutes against St. Mary's. I also had 4 steals, 2 blocks, and 3 assists. He's a stat stuffer. He's a stats guy. Issue when we get to conference play.
Absolutely, without question.
With that, we're gonna let's go ahead and bring Mr. John Grant on, and then we'll get into ADs after that interview and see what you thought about his top 5 team. Now he has it at the NIA level and the NCAA Division I level, and so we'll get a chance to mix it up a little bit there and see what your thoughts on that as we get John Grant on board as he gives us the latest and greatest news. We have the executive director, Mr. John Grant, of the MEAC SWAC Challenge Celebration Bowl. Yeah, you can relax in here. I like the background.
I like the background.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I like this.
I'm giving you football, you fellas. I know y'all are missing. You're foaming at the mouth right now. But hey, take a look in here. This is what it looks like.
Came in with the background and then he started leaning back.
Got the collar popped up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he got ready. I was like, okay, all right, I see what you're doing. 2019 Celebration Bowl re-air and a virtual watch party on ESPNU. So tell us a little bit about this. Obviously, that 2019 game was SWAC member Alcorn State Braves against the MEAC North Carolina A&T Aggies. The program will be aired December 10th, 2020. That is 8 o'clock Eastern time. So that's 7 o'clock Central for all of us following us here. It is on ESPNU, as I said. The nice thing that I'll let you get into is how folks and other things that you want to talk about, but how they can RSVP in terms of the virtual part of it. So go ahead and run through it. We're going to turn it over for a minute. Do what you do, because I'm still fascinated with that bracket. It's so clear and nice back there.
RSVP.
Nice.
Wow. You too can have one of these when you come to the 2021 Celebration Bowl. Well, guys, thanks so much for having me. It's always great to be here with you, and you guys obviously running one of the premier weekly shows for HBCU sports, and just delighted to be with you again. But as you mentioned, we will be on December the 10th at 8 p.m. Because there's been no football all season, and I know if you're like me, you're just you're jonesing for it, and you're doing everything you can to not just get depressed about it. But so we thought we would re-air the last year's Celebration Bowl on ESPNU. ESPN has been so gracious enough to schedule us in a prime time spot. And while the game is airing on ESPNU, we're going to have a virtual watch party on both Zoom and Twitch platforms, where we're going to have DJs, we're going to have music, certainly telling everybody to wear your HBCU gear. We're going to be interviewing the leadership from both of the institutions, both on Alcorn State University for the SWAC and for North Carolina A&T. We've got both athletic directors on, the coaches. We're going to be interviewing past players from both schools that have played in the game, so fans can hear from players what the experience was like playing in the Celebration Bowl. We've partnered with the Black College Football Hall of Fame. As you know, each year around the Celebration Bowl, their inductees make their first public appearance at the Celebration Bowl. So they're going to make this class, which two of those members of that class are members of Alcorn State University, will be joining us at our virtual watch party. So this will be their coming out event for their induction into the Hall of Fame, which will happen now, I understand, in June of next year, that they'll actually be inducted. And we'll have both band directors on. We're going to talk about some of the highlights from the halftime shows and what they're doing now in the off season with COVID. So and the event will be hosted by none other than our ESPN talent, Jay Walker, Tiffany Green, and Larisha Harris will be emceeing, will be carrying the event for us, and we're just excited about it.
Man, that sounds big time. Charles, I saw your eyes light up a little bit about that interesting part. Yeah, John Grant knows how to get it done. We talk a little bit about the background. I like the fact that he's giving that platform to the bands. I teased him a little bit. I said, John. And so I know you have a question there, so go ahead and follow up, Charles.
I wanted to ask this question, Mr. Grant, in terms of the importance of getting eyeballs again on HBCU athletics or HBCU football particularly, and the Twitch platform, which has become a very vital platform, especially for a lot of gamers and things of that nature, but just getting eyeballs again on HBCU football.
Well, we did this for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. So since there wasn't a kickoff game, we re-aired the MEAC SWAC Challenge along with the virtual watch party. Hugely successful. As a matter of fact, the numbers for that, the viewing numbers, it was the top rated program on ESPNU for that day. But also, more importantly, it was the top rated program in that time slot since June. So it was obviously an appetite. We had nearly over 65,000 people viewing the game on ESPNU. We had close to 2,400 people who attended our virtual event on Twitch and Zoom. And so it was a great event, and we thought that, with that, it was always our plan to bring football to the fans with these re-airs. We were just lucky enough to get in with our programming department at ESPN, who, we thank them for giving us a wonderful time slot on Thursday the 10th at 8 p.m. to re-air this game, but also to put this around, give us an opportunity to have the watch party as well. But also, Charles, each year you've been to the Celebration Bowl, and we also do a partnership with the National Football League with their Careers in Football Forum that happens around the Celebration Bowl. Well, that will happen also virtually, albeit, but on Thursday and Friday of what I'm going to call Bowl Week, we'll be hosting and partnering with the NFL to conduct their Careers in Football virtual forum on the 11th and 12th. No, I'm sorry, 10th and 11th. That's Thursday and Friday of next week as well. Of this week, this week as well. Wow, the time is flying, man. It's already upon us. I'm saying next week, and this is happening Thursday.
It happens to the best of it, especially in COVID-19 world. All this stuff kind of seems circular and mixes up there. But that's why we wanted to get you in this week, so you could make sure that people are even more aware of what's going on as you're sending it out through all your different platforms. With that, let me let Mike jump in here and ask the follow-up question.
Yeah, so I've heard about a lot about the partnerships and the activities. And maybe you've talked a little bit to this earlier. Can you take us through your understanding of how engaged the Alcorn State Braves fan base is, the alumni base, as well as the A&T base, and their commitment to participate in this event on Thursday?
It has been outstanding. As a matter of fact, the RSVPs, as we've seen them coming in, have been outstanding. Of course, right now, A&T is leading a little bit, but not by much. The Braves are, we've always had great representation from Alcorn when they participate in the Celebration Bowl. And if you've been down, and I know all of you have, as you go down to Lorman, is that right?
Lorman, yeah.
Mississippi, anytime there's a game down there, I tell you, that's one of the great places. I've been to the SWAC championship down there twice. And, they've got one of the top tailgates, I think, in SWAC that happens down there. No question about it.
They're okay.
Well,
they're
Mr.
okay.
Grant, when Jackson State goes to SWAC championship,
you heard me say one of the.
Okay, they're okay.
I didn't say detox. Because
John Grant,
I will have to tell you.
All you have to do is tell them it's set up. The commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullough, set it up really well. All they have to do is if you're Jackson State playing the championship game, John Grant will be there.
That's right.
Washington at Prairie View playing the championship game. This John Grant will be there. That ain't got nothing to do with him. He told you what he experienced. That's up to y'all to make sure that he's experiencing that.
But he said,
"But go on, Mr. Jan. These folks getting all excited and rocking. You know how we do it in the lab. We get a little excited at times."
Well, I understand that, and my challenge, you're right, always is. The road begins in Atlanta with our kickoff game, and it ends in Atlanta with the bowl game. Everything else in between is just extra. So we want to make sure that, for those fervent Jackson State fans, just make it to Atlanta. Just all you got to do is win. Get to the Celebration Bowl.
Challenge accepted
this year.
All right.
So,
because I know we gonna be there, so that's up to y'all.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Y'all gonna bring Prairie View with you, Mike? If you gonna bring Jackson State with you, that's up to y'all.
But you'll be there, right?
I didn't put the challenge down for Southern University. I told her, I said, look here, I'm going. Y'all can tell me what you're I told the last spoke, Willie Simmons in Prairie View. I said, FAMU or Prairie View. I told them both. I said, I'll be there. You join me there with one of them teams, and maybe we'll see a Prairie View FAMU matchup. That didn't happen. Now, I need to talk both of the coaches. I done told Coach Eric Dooley I said, Coach Dooley, now I'm going to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. I know you can't necessarily choose the MEAC Challenge. That's a little different. But you have every right to make sure that you meet me in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. But, we're still working on that. That's another discussion. But with that, before I get myself in trouble, let me talk about the fact that it's my understanding that you got a big announcement coming out tomorrow. I know all of it you can't share, but you can at least tell folks it's coming. ESPN events talked about the fact that the MEAC Challenge Kickoff and Celebration Bowl to announce a new title sponsor. Now that's some big news because folks been out there looking at that a little bit, but you've been behind the scene, obviously working feverishly, particularly in the COVID-19, and look what has given birth to the MEAC Challenge Kickoff and the Celebration Bowl announcement for a new title. Talk about what you can about when you're going to make the announcement and then anything else that you can about the big announcement.
So, we've been working very hard. First, let me say, we want to thank our partners, with the Air Force Reserve, who were the initial title sponsor for the first 2 years. They had a year off, then they came back year 3, and they weren't in last year, not out of desire, but certainly out of just, how the budget cycles happen in Washington. For 2 years, Congress didn't pass a budget in time, so they didn't have the funding in the 2 years that they were not there. But without question, they stepped up early on, and I would say gave the bowl game a great shot in the arm. But now, with the announcement that we're going to make tomorrow, we're about to go on steroids. We have a great partner that's going to, in our announcement, it's going to be a multi-year agreement with us. And we're just excited to be able to make that announcement. And not only will they be titling one game, but they'll be they'll have the entitlement position of both the games, the kickoff as well as to open the season and close the season with the MEAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. So that's a huge commitment.
That's big. That's big.
And we're just excited to be for that and can't wait to announce it on tomorrow.
No doubt about it. We're finna hit the top of the hour, so we're going to close off on our terrestrial radio side. But if there's some other things that you want to share, if you don't mind holding over, we can bring you back to close out formally and let you have any other time that you need to close out on some things that we may not have shared with the listeners.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, you'll hold on. We'll bring that in terms of just talking about it. Before I do that, as we sign off, again, we're talking to the Executive Director, John Grant, of the MEAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. We're talking about the re-air of the 2019 Celebration Bowl and virtual watch party on ESPNU. A lot of different people will be involved in it. That is going to air. That is Thursday, December the 10th. At 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central, ESPNU. You can go to the website and RSVP. We'll talk a little bit more about the particulars of how you can find out on that shortly as we close out on the top of the hour with our terrestrial side. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We want to thank you for our terrestrial listeners from KSWH 1230 for following us. Everybody else, hold on, and we'll finish up with this interview in terms of closing out with our Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, on KSWH 1230 AM. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break. This is Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. We're interviewing none other than Executive Director, Mr. John Grant, Executive Director of the MEAC Challenge and Celebration Bowl. we're talking about the re-air of the 2019 Celebration Bowl. Again, we're not going to pour too much fun at the Braves of Alcorn State University because they are signing up feverishly because, you know, they can talk good noise and they'll ask you, particularly for the SWAC schools, who want their smoke. So they still have those bragging rights. So
they do. They do.
Fans, be careful.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. In that side, you got North Carolina A&T, the Aggies that continue to represent in so many different ways. They're taking a tough one tonight on the basketball court, but we'll say that for a little later. They did get a couple of big wins early on, but sometimes it doesn't go that way. But as you see here, we give you the latest and greatest updates. With that, bringing back into the conversation is Mr. Grant, Executive Director of the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. With that, were there any final things that you wanted to make sure that you shared with us that we might not have gotten to before we let you go?
Well, you know, I do want to say that we all know that this has been a very difficult year for the entire country and the world, really, as we dealt with COVID-19 and the implications that has had on, you know, people around the country, and specifically that it's had on HBCU sports. But I have to take my hats off to our university leaders in the across all 4 conferences, HBCU conferences, who made the very difficult decision, but the right decision, you know, to protect our student athletes and make sure that they had the best possible opportunity in safety and not playing football in the season. And we can see, you know, whether you're looking at professional sports or the college sports that's out there now, and how even with basketball, the challenges that everyone is facing to try to put these games on. So even though it's been difficult, it's been different, you know, we have to take our hats off, you know, because it takes bold leadership and to do so. But it also is now the time that those universities need our support and help. And certainly I call on all people who are alumni of HBCUs, or if you're just a fan of HBCUs, to make sure that you're contributing and writing a check and making a donation and making a contribution to those universities at this very important and critical time. With that being said, I will tell you that football will be back in 2021. It'll be stronger than ever. It is my hope that the SWAC conference, as well as the MEAC, are able to play in the spring. And I know they're working very hard and planning for that. And hopefully if things go well, they'll be able to. But if not, we certainly are, again, know that by the fall of next year in September, when the season kicks off, we'll be there with our kickoff game and a new title sponsor, and the Celebration Bowl and a new title sponsor. So please visit our website at thecelebrationbowl.com. That is thecelebrationbowl.com, where you can register to join us on Thursday for our watch party and re-air of the 2019 Celebration Bowl. And as always, guys, thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
To that. And it's always good to have you on. But with that said, I will sneak a little nugget in there, and you don't have to answer this now because, you know, but since you rolling in all this big time money, we had the former head men's basketball coach of Alabama A&M, Coach Van Pettaway, on last weekend. We were talking about these matchups between MEAC and SWAC teams, so we might be sneaking in there a little bit talking about a MEAC SWAC Challenge basketball game, part of the introduction as we get into the Celebration Bowl, just to mix it up a little bit. So we'll hide on to that, you know, see if we can get your fancy and talk to the big league along with yourself at ESPN to see what we can do to make that happen. But just throwing those nuggets, you know, I'm always gonna push you to the next level.
Nice nugget, Doc. I like that.
But I do want you guys to pay attention to something. I'm gonna move to the side a little bit, and I want you to see what's on the field. You see that in that end zone?
Yeah, I done ran it.
So I just want you to know. So we're supporting SWAC. So guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Right, thank
Keep
you
up
very
the
much.
good work. Really do. You guys do a wonderful, wonderful job. And we need you to do what you do in order for us to do what we do. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
In all seriousness, we really appreciate what you're doing, John Grant, as we said, Executive Director of the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. For those, for some reason, if whatever reason you haven't made either or both of these events, you have to find a way to put it on your schedule. Not just if you're waiting for your team to attend, but make it one of those destinations because it is a thrill when you start to mix it up with all the fans there that really create a unique camaraderie between HBCU fans. And I'm talking about at all division levels, not just between the MEAC and SWAC, but CIAA, SIAC, and even those over there in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference or what we refer to independent programs. If you like the HBCU and you say that you're an HBCU culture fan, as I call it, specifically about the sporting HBCU diaspora, one of the things that you need to put on your list, if not to do once, to put it on a regular destination spot, is the MEAC SWAC Challenge, and I would say even more important, the Celebration Bowl. You got to find a way to do it. It's in a great city, Atlanta. We all love Atlanta. So if nothing else, it gives you a chance to get to Atlanta and kick up your feet a little bit. And as we come out of COVID-19, I certainly know a lot of folks that want the chance to have a destination spot. So I did want to say that it is first class.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying just in regards to the bowl and what I've got to see behind the scenes is we've talked about classes being in the mix about this. So I've got a chance to really get behind the scenes in a lot of ways with John Grant to see that. And these students get a first class treatment, just like any other quote unquote big time bowl. And so it is a big time bowl. And so if you want to be a part of that and you see everything on TV, continue to turn your TVs on, continue to turn your radio on or whatever, how you streaming or whatever. But find a way to get yourself down there in Atlanta and get in one of those seats. Because I'm telling you, this is a can't miss event. It means so much for both conferences. We need to do our part to make sure that we can help John Grant talk to his colleagues in the ESPN to keep this thing going. With that, I'll let you jump off. I've done my part. I'll write the check to you afterwards.
Bring him a club.
Exactly.
With that, let's get back in here to get into some of this mix with the basketball as we talk about in a lot of ways, because I want to get into the poll. I want to go into A.D. Drew's poll in a lot of ways. Siveri's not dead, so let's jump in a little bit and see if we can talk about on the women's side first. And then we'll jump in here and see what we can do getting back to the men, which we talked about with Jimmy's poll, so we can compare the two. But let's do some breakdown on the women. Let's go with, again, as we say, Division II. There's no poll right now because Division II teams have only played couple of games. Obviously, you're hearing about the CIAA, what they're doing. It looks like the SIAC is going to push forward, but not just a lot of NCAA Division II games, so it's hard to do a poll earlier. In terms of that, if you would, with the poll there for NAIA, the top 5 programs, second week, so not really a lot of changes there. You do have at number 5, Xavier, Louisiana. At number 4, you have Dillard. At number 3, you have Philander Smith. At number 2, Florida Memorial. At number 1, you have Talladega getting it done. Talladega has 3 wins. Florida Memorial also has 3 wins. You have Philander Smith, Dillard, and Xavier all with 1 win. So the records there are 1 and 2 in terms of those bottom 3 teams, top 3 teams. Florida Memorial is 3 and 4, but Talladega is the only team here with a winning record. Looking at the poll, it's early. We'll see what that looks like when we get into conference play. But you're going to see some difference in these poll rankings. Let me jump to the Division I, then I'll get your thoughts on either one of them. You have at number 5, Howard University was unranked last week. They got a big Division I win, so they're 1-0 on the season. At number 4, you have Alabama A&M. That's one of the programs we were talking about with both the men's and women's got a victory. Alabama A&M win was against at the time, a top 20 mid-major team against state rival that I really like was Troy. They're 1-0. You have Southern that he puts in the ranking at 0-3. They were previously ranked 2, so he does drop them. Those last 4 and 5 teams were unranked, so they jump in the poll. You have Jackson State sitting at 0-2 when this poll came out yesterday. They were previously ranked 4, so they jump at the 2. But there's North Carolina Central sitting at 1-1, was unranked, but they're all the way at number 1. Again, this is the poll that uses algorithms in it, so you might see some oddities off. But just in terms of your general framework of basketball, as we get back into it, let's go with you, Mike. Any thoughts on AD's? As he says, the Drew Dimes. What would you think of his either one of his polls, if not both?
Yeah, first of all, I do agree with Talladega being at the tops, even though they hadn't really got into play. They're sitting at 4-1 and they're playing well. Did you say you had Morgan State at number 1, or who was number 1?
No, he had at number 1. He had for the women's. One second there. I jumped over to the men's side where y'all were talking about it. At number 1, he had North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central.
Interesting.
I didn't hear UAPB.
I knew it's tough.
Interesting. Interesting.
That's why I wanted to make sure I got it out correct, because I was like, yeah, you read what I read. Yeah.
Wait a second. I didn't hear UAPB. I didn't hear Don Brown's UAPB too.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Ooh.
They're 1-1,
Yeah.
I believe, on the season. They started off 1-0 with a big win. They were one. The women that jumped out there first, they got their win. Again, it was against another state team. They had a tough loss, less than a week about that, but played tough in that game until late. It was pulled away. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised that I didn't see Arkansas Pine Bluff in the poll. So I'll jump over to you, Charles, and let me know your thoughts on either one of these. And then we'll mix it up with on the men's side to dig a little deeper, as Mike is just like, nah, he's not rolling.
Well, UAB. I'm just saying UABB. They have a quality win against Arkansas State.
Yeah.
They did. They did lose against Central Arkansas, but I kind of scratching my head on that one. On a lot of those, I'd have to see his formula. So.
Well, there are two teams. Howard at number 5, 1-0. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a typical swag fan. Man, that East Coast bias, I tell you.
Exactly.
But and
the problem you got with that now is AD Drew. He has some, he has some allegiance now to the swag. He needs to start it up.
I gotta mess with AD about that.
Did he have Southern in there too at 0-3?
Yeah, but they're tough.
Southern
they're
number
tough.
3 at 0-3.
Yeah, those 3 losses, they played some tough basketball. I like Southern where they are, but Texas Southern, they jump out early and they make a statement. Their 1-0 is more impressive to me than Howard's 1-0. And Nia Mitchell comes back in, picks up right where she left off. She's just a double machine. But UAPB, when we start talking about the women's basketball and the swag, we always, it's Jackson State, Southern, Alabama A&M. I think it's going to be right in the mix. But UAPB has come out throwing a couple of haymakers early, and then of course Texas Southern. So, when we get to conference play, this is going to be just fun stuff on the women's side. Whiz, I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if Southern should be in there, even though they played 3 really tough opponents. We don't. You do the poll according to now, so he has to have one hell of a formula on strength of schedule or something.
Well, he said strength of schedule is really big in his program, so you're going to see this again early. You're going to see some teams that you record-wise that you're just not going to like, but a lot of it is going to be that strength schedule formula that's played in there. And I do have experience of that, but no, that's why we have the show and we break it down, and it's fun to see what's going on there. I would like to give a shout out to Rakia Lane from Philander Smith, BCSN. She is the NAIA Player of the Week on the women's side. And at the Division I level, you have Jayla Thornton of Howard University, BCSN NCAA Division I Player of the Week on the women's side. Before we close it up, let's talk a little bit about the men's poll and see if we believe AD did any better on this side. And we can compare it a little bit with Jimmy's 5 programs that we put up there. So it'll be interesting because we'll have a contrast here. Let me just start it off by the players of the week. We have NAIA Player of the Week on the men's side is Aubrey Washington from Florida Memorial. He had a big week with 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in his matchup. And then you talked about this earlier, Charles, this gentleman named Michael Weathers, a senior guard, Texas Southern University. Weathers averaged 21 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, and 2 steals per game in the 2 games for Texas Southern University. One of them leading to a victory over Wyoming as they had a big comeback. They played St. Mary's close until the second half, where St. Mary's won on a barrage of threes to pull it out and make the score look a little worse than it was. But they were really nip and tuck in that ball game, giving St. Mary's everything they wanted. And a lot of that had to do with none other than Michael Weathers, who is AD's, the BCSN, I should say, NAC Division I Player of the Week. Let's go to the NAA top 5 programs as he has this week. At number 5, you have Xavier, Louisiana, 1-1. They were previously ranked 1. You have at number 4, Florida Memorial. Let's say at 2-4. They were previously ranked 4. They stayed there. At number 3, you have Talladega. That's the Talladega Bulldogs, for you all don't know. They move up 2 spots. They were they dropped down. They had 5 wins and 1 losses. I wanted to say 5 wins. I thought that was interesting that they dropped after having 5 wins, more than anybody in there. But number 2, you have Harris Stowe, 1 and 2, previous ranked 3. So they jumped over Talladega with a big win. I wonder if that was a head-to-head matchup, but we'll get a little deeper into that. You had Philander Smith, who sits at 4-4. They played quite a bit of games compared to a lot of teams out there. They were ranked 5, but they have a lot of chance. It'll be interesting to see how that plays off as they get into conference play, playing those many non-conference games. Does it help them? But they were previously ranked 5, and they jumped all the way to the 1 spot. Before we discuss that and let y'all jump into it, I'm going to go to Charles first. But let's get into the Division I side. At number 1, he has Hampton, 1-0. Obviously, it's released before the game with Norfolk State. They were ranked 4, so they dropped 1 spot. So they might drop out based on what other teams do. At number 4, you have North Carolina A&T. They're 2-4. They were unranked. They jumped in the poll, but we just talked about the tough loss they had today. So things are changing. At number 3, you have Prairie A&M, 1-2. They hadn't played in a week because of COVID. They were previously ranked 1, but after a couple of losses being off, they've dropped down in the poll. At number 2, you have North Carolina Central sitting at 1-1. This does not include that tough loss, as I said, they had yesterday, where they were all in the mix, gave you that highlight. They were unranked and jumped all the way to number 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams jump in and out of these polls when you're just talking about 5 teams. Very early, there's not a lot of demarcation. But he has, unlike Jimmy, he has Texas Southern at 1-3, previously ranked 3. He has them number 1 in the poll. I'm surprised again. No Norfolk State.
Yeah. I was listening. I was
waiting for it.
But let's see what Charles says about this poll ranking by AD Drew.
Well, obviously, it came out before Norfolk State and Hampton, but Norfolk State, I think that was a nice win against a tough Hampton team. Like you said, Hampton has a good win to start the season. So, but Norfolk State to get that MEAC versus Big South win, kudos to Norfolk State. So I look for Norfolk State to maneuver their way into the poll. Shout out to Aubrey Washington. I had an opportunity to do the color work for that Florida Memorial game, and he took the game over at a certain point where he was just knocking jumpers down. And I think you made mention of him being one of the players of the week. But Florida Memorial, nice ball club, they're nice and long on defensive end, and if they hit the boards, they're going to be a tough team. But early part of the season, I like what we got thus far in the polls, especially for the Division I guys, North Carolina Central. Texas Southern, I think those are 2 of the better teams in both the MEAC and the SWAC.
No doubt about it. I see you moonlighting on this, Charles, but that's good. I like you picking up gigs. That's a good deal. You do pretty good at that. I listened to you. I broke down some stuff. I said, oh, he sounds pretty good there. I didn't know he had that. With that, Mike, what are your thoughts on AD Drew's dimes, as he likes to call it? And we'll get him in. We'll tease him and we'll wrap him up a little bit, beat him up. But before this is over, in a couple of weeks after this churns a couple of times and we go in and out, we're going to bring him in and let him explain himself. But right now, he just got to sit back and take it. So let me see what Mike talks about on the men's side with Drew's dimes.
Yeah. Yeah, Drew's dime has just turned into a nickel because so I don't know where Texas Southern may be good, but they're number 3 or 4 right now.
They may be good.
They may be good. We don't know yet. We Norfolk State, they have 2 guards, Carter and Langley. They're averaging together 30-35 points a game. They played a really good game. I don't know why, number 1, you can't justify them being in the top 5, and more specifically being in the number 1 slot as of today, with these wins. So I don't know about that. I do see Prairie View being in the top 5 just because of the quality win and how they played, at least to this point. But the jury is out for me in terms of TSU being in the top 5. I'm on the fence with that one.
No doubt about it. As we get to close up with this third component of the show, you can go see this yourself. Go to bcsndrew.blogspot.com. That's bcsndrew.blogspot.com. And you can go check out Drew's dimes, both on the women's and men's side yourself. We'll have a chance to bring this in and out for a while. We'll talk about it a little bit. And then when I start doing Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU College Classic Cuts poll, we'll see maybe a little mixture and see what goes on here between the polls and see if we can chop it up as we get into the games. Before we close up, let me get a little conversation here and give you some updates. Southern University hires interim baseball coach. We talked about the move that took place last week. The assistant baseball coach gets his shot. Chris Crenshaw will take over as interim head coach of Southern University baseball program effective immediately. I think that's a smart move to stick within the program at this point. Yep. Give Coach Crenshaw a shot at it. But you talking about coming in with some big-time programs. It'll be interesting. But he has a lot of talent there. Southern was one of the teams that many people thought would be pushing it, particularly in the West Division, along with probably Texas Southern University and to some degree maybe Grambling. Prairie View and I'm sure Pine Bluff would have a thing to say about that. But obviously, when you talk about the larger component of the SWAC in terms of the baseball tournament, you certainly got to talk about Jackson State University and Alabama State. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach Crenshaw can get done. He's quoted as saying it made sense to hire internally at this juncture, and we are very fortunate to have a high-quality candidate on the staff, which Coach Crenshaw is what Banks said. And so it'll be fascinating to see how that comes back. When you talk about Coach Crenshaw, he enters his 3rd season coaching on the Bluff. 8th season at the Division I level and 10th overall on the collegiate level. He was instrumental in helping guide the Jaguars to the 2019 SWAC Western Division Championship and overall 2019 SWAC Tournament Championship, a season which earned the Jaguars a bid to the NCAA Starkville Regional, where they played extremely well. Prior to Southern, he spent 5 years at Jackson State University, 2 years at Southwest Tennessee Community College, both as an assistant coach. Crenshaw is a Memphis native who played at Southwest Tennessee Community College and Southern University under the legendary head coach Roger Kadar, and is a graduate of Bethel University as he earned his degree in physical education. His father is Gregory Crenshaw and uncle Reggie Williams, are both alumni of Southern University baseball program. So he has a pulse of that program and certainly understands the expectation and the culture there. So if anybody can get it done that's been in the mix, I certainly like to see that Crenshaw gets it done, and he deserves his fair shot. I'm going to sum up a couple of things and maybe get your last thought before I go there. Jarvis Christian College received $50,000 endowment from the AKAs. So the AKAs continue to do it really big. That's $1.5 million was raised in one day for the support of historically Black colleges and universities. And this is not their first rodeo. They've done this, and over the last 4 years, they've donated, check this out, $10 million. From the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Glenda Gubba, aka International President and Chief Executive Officer, has made it a point of the sorority, obviously, to make sure they support HBCUs. And as they say, they put their money where their mouth is. Each HBCU will receive $50,000 in unrestricted endowment funds as part of a phased approach to help schools reduce student debt through scholarships, fund industry-specific research, recruit and retain top faculty, and other critical operations. Kudos.
Kudos, Dr.
Sorority. Really getting it done in so many different ways. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about that in terms of what President Glover and the president of Alpha Kappa Alpha is doing.
The Ivies are doing it.
South Carolina State. Did you want to jump in there on that, Charles?
Well, no, I was just about to say that's my former dean of the College of Business at Jackson State, Dr. Glover. So before she became president of Tennessee State. So shout out to Dr. Glover and everything that she is doing with Alpha Kappa Alpha.
No doubt about it. And you can tell she's putting that business-related background, being dean and then the president now many years as the president of Tennessee State, and you've seen significant growth up there. She's getting it done in so many different ways. 6 HBCUs received funding from the National Science Foundation, NSFL, to develop HBCU Data Science Consortium. This is big news. Partnering schools include Alabama A&M, Bowie State University, Florida A&M University, better known as FAMU, Morehouse College, Johnson C. Smith, and Norfolk State University. Each received 100,000 seed grants awarded from the NCF South Big Data Hub to put this plan into place. We talked about a little bit Morehouse College jumping into this in a lot of ways, and now it's expanded. So it's interesting to see. The statement was made from co-lead Jason Black, associate professor in Florida A&M School of Business and Industry. He's quoted as saying, "We're working to expand a culture of data science and analytics research and academic curriculum development at FAMU. Through this new program, we hope to not only strengthen our data science efforts here at FAMU, but create a strong community of data science researchers among all of our HBCU institutions." So that's going to be fascinating. They do have an inaugural HBCU Data Science Workshop to be held virtually. That's February 19th and 20th, 2021. So those that are interested in that side or can pass the word, I think that's something that we certainly need to get out there and support. So gentlemen, I certainly wanted to get your thoughts on that. Last thing I have here is Miles College did receive a grant from Alabama Power for critical tech needs, as Miles College is receiving $350,000 grant from Alabama Power and its parent Southern Company to support Miles College Empowerment Center for Digital Excellence in Careers and Education. Empower Center is what they call it, a lot of different ways. So a lot of big news is going on that I wanted to sneak out there, but wanted to get your thoughts before we close up there. Let's go with you, Charles Bishop.
Yeah, kudos in terms of those schools getting that grant money, especially during these challenging times. So always great to see that happen. And I did want to send shout outs and well wishes to our great friend Carlos Brown. Get well soon, my friend. And I also saw as part of our listeners, W.C. Gordon's son, Robin and Craig Gordon, that were tuning in tonight. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out the Sports Lab. So, I tell you what, one thing during COVID, and I think President Hudson touched on it, the way HBCUs continue to push through and thrive, it just fills you with a whole lot of pride.
Great points you're making there. Go ahead, Mike. Anything that you wanted to close out? Any thoughts?
Yeah, just to build on, times are really tough. You see a lot of HBCUs getting donations, receiving grants. I don't know if it's the trend or the time, but congratulations again to this latest round of HBCUs that have received the money from the National Science Foundation. That sets a foundation for good learning, and not only from an analytics, but just from a science basis as well. So they're building the students as well as the athletes. So kudos to them. Big time kudos to my aunt just texted me. So kudos to the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha on their donation. 10 million, man, that's a lot of Ivies.
See, yeah. Wendy Jenkins Bishop. Shout out Kate Johnson. I see y'all.
And as well, I was on the text line as well. So welcome back, Carlos Brown. Good to see that you're here, my friend. I echo Charles Bishop's thoughts as well. You were in our prayers. Glad you're back up on your feet and going, and look forward to hearing you again in the next segment of your radio show as well.
Yeah, just showing off my little gear there with Mogul Threads. But with that said, I echo what both of you said with Carlos Brown. Certainly, our well wishes go with him as he continues to recover. He is back at home, so he's doing well. He said there is likely and will be a show this weekend, so we get a chance on that. So shout out as we talk about the lacrosse. What is that there, Mike?
This is Nations United, the nation's only premier all minority lacrosse club in the nation. So I am on the board as well. So they have Nations United Texas. They are dedicated to the development of Black and brown young men in a sport that is predominantly white. So they are a premier minority driven, promoting the ideals of diversity. So shout out to Nations United Texas.
Man, that's pretty big time. That's good stuff that you're doing there, Mike, and including part of the six-member crew that is bringing you Sports and Culture Podcast. 1876 is coming soon. Look forward to debut in January 2021. We'll have more information for you on Sports and Culture Podcast 1876, as we will be giving you updates and information on what to look forward on that. And you're one of the members, a part of that crew. So I know you're excited about what's going on there.
Meet you at the flagpole.
1400 Club that he's doing. So go ahead, Mike. What do you want to say?
All right. Yeah. We also have a lot of colorful segments. One of the ones is called Meet Me at the Flagpole. If you're from the Hill, if you're from the Prairie View, you know what that means. So there'll be a lot of candid discussion, not only on sports, but culture, the band. We have two phenomenal women on the show who are very knowledgeable in basketball and the band. She was a drum major, the third female in Prairie View history to serve as a female drum major. So you got a lot of information, but a lot of candid discussion. Can't wait to get it started. I'm very excited about this. 1876, baby.
There you go. Charles, talk a little bit about the 1400 Club in regards to 100 episodes. In that 100 episodes, you got to interview, along with your colleagues, Coach Prime. Talk about what folks can expect with 1400 Club.
Oh, we got a lot of great things in the hopper in terms of interviews coming up and with the 1400 Club podcast. Our 100th episode. We started this podcast back in January prior to the pandemic, and we were giggling for the most part about wondering what were we going to be able to talk about, and the content has been nonstop in terms of being able to interview a broad range of people around Jackson State athletics, from soccer coach to volleyball coach to administrators to people around Jackson in terms of the Chamber of Commerce and things of that nature. But the podcast is really taken off. In our 100th episode, we had an opportunity to talk to Coach Prime himself, and he gave us tremendous insight into the program and some of the things that are going on around Jackson State football. Some of those things were picked up by HBCU Sports and HBCU Game Day. So I tell you, the next 100 episodes, look out. We have just a tremendous wealth of great guests who are stopping by. And I tell you, my phone doesn't stop buzzing from, hey, can I get on? So it's really a labor of love to be able to talk Jackson State athletics and to bridge the gap, if you will, from the older alums who have a set of eyes that look at Jackson State from, the 40s through the 70s to the younger alums from the 80s until now. So it's great to really just bridge that gap and really talk about the greatness of the history of Jackson State athletics.
No doubt about it. With that, we'll bring it to a close. Also, look out for HBCU Pro Media Association coming to you soon, bringing all these HBCU networks, or a great deal of them together, to bring you more HBCU sports news. With that, thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU of College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. I hope you enjoyed our interview with the president of Jackson State University, Professor Hudson, I should say, or President Hudson of Jackson State University, as well as our interview with MEAC SWAC Challenge and Celebration Bowl Executive Director John Grant. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we will discuss the latest in the news. Follow me, Kenyatta, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course.
Lecture.
Dismissed.